I see the passengers are stranded somewhere, and there's a need for me to move the passengers. Well, my vehicle, I may be aware that the vehicle is not too strong, but because of the motivation to maybe get some more money or maybe fuel for the passenger who is stranded, I'm tied to do the trip, and along the line I get a problem. So if we want to clear the kind of problems we have in terms of scarcity of vehicle and all those things, one, we need to work on our operational space, our terrain. Our systems is not that supportive. For instance, if a journey of about say 1 hour, if it takes you about 2 hours to make that same journey, then it's not incentive to the private operator. If I go to and so I have to make maybe an average of about say 5 trips, I'm able to make only 3 trips. And because of traffic, I even burn more fuel than doing the 5 trips. So I'll be running at a loss. So once we're able to improve on our road network, we're able to improve on our other systems like bus terminals and all that, we continue to have some of these problems.
You know, some have wondered instances where, for instance, there are challenges in the sector. You are calling for unity collaboration with government. How about instances where the private sector decide to sit back? For instance, when you have a particular challenge and you say you are on strike, you are declaring strike due to disagreement, due to a policy disagreement, due to pricing disagreement, due to a fair increment and all those conversations. At what point do you foresee that we'll have a smooth structure where there are reviews and there are consistent management of pricing as against ensuring that commuters get to work or their families when they want to move to a particular place?
Let me try to deal with the issue of, try deliberately sitting back. I don't think any operator would just want to sit back and see passengers suffer, or maybe sit back and lose revenue. I don't think anybody would want to do that. What normally happens is that we have our own challenges, like I said earlier on, because vehicles are too small to carry that big numbers, because our roads are not too good. The frequency of visiting the workshop is quite high. So you go to workshop, maybe the mechanic is not able to fix it for you, or you don't even get the parts to fix the vehicle. So it reduces the fleets on the number of fleets on our roads. And definitely once it reduces, it affects the passenger. 2, our vehicles are the smaller vans. And the total, the maximum is about 19-seater. So if you have a 19-seater, to carry about 80 passengers, you need about 4 or 5 of those vehicles to be able to carry. But if you have a good transport system where the government has supported the private sector to acquire good high occupancy buses, one bus can carry about 80 passengers, and it reduces traffic and it moves passengers at quite a number of the bigger volumes. So nobody will want to do that. Now, what about the other side? The other, you said about something.
The pricing challenge.
The pricing check. Good. You see, we have a system. In fact, this system started around 2001 when President Kufuor was in power. What we did was that there was constant agitation about price increases. We will do that. People want to do things on their own to sanitize the space. That is why we formed the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, so that we become a lead advocacy group for our welfare issues, and other operational related issues. So that is why we formed that. And that's why we created the platform for us to discuss the issues relating to transport fare increases and fuel and all that. I remember those days when the MP want to even increase fuel, they call us. They call the ministry, they call the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council and other players. We all sit around the table and agree on what we want to do before we do that. But somewhere along the line, the regulation came in, and the MP does things on their own. But we also see that because we're in the space and we have quite a number of challenges that the other person don't know, we try to create the opportunity. Let's discuss this. So as a practice, we meet beginning of every year to kind of agree on the numbers, the spare parts, the increases in taxes, driver salary, interest on loans and all those. We look at all those things holistically, and especially the price of fuel. Then we said, okay, because of this percentage increase, this first quarter, or maybe the first half, we increase it by this percentage. And that is what has been the practice over the years. But somehow, well, things are not seem to be working quite well as supposed to be.
Interesting. You know, there were times that the factors that you mentioned that transport operators consider when they try to fix prices, some for spare parts and all that, they are considered basically. There are times that when some factors, for instance, last year we saw fuel price go down very much, and most commuters were expecting a marginal price reduction from the transport operators. But when it comes to that particular crossroad, they end up shifting another complaint to the spare parts going up rather, and therefore they need to balance. For how, when will Ghanaians, let's say, ever see a price reduction in terms of transport?
Well, I think let's be fair to ourselves.
Yes.
Beginning of the year 2025, when fuel started going down, we met and we did a reduction of 15%. So that 15% still stands. And you see, it's not as if we are not sensitive to the plight of the traveler. We're also careful about the business we do. I remember in a meeting I said that, look, the spare parts we buy, yes, the price hasn't changed much. It hasn't changed.
Abosoka spare parts dealers said they've reduced their prices.
Oh, but Master, spare parts, if you say you have reduced the price of the engine and other ones, they are not part of operational costs. Operational cost, look, somebody can drive on the same road and break a ball joint almost immediately. You have to come and buy. The next 3 days you break it. And those are the things we are talking about. Those things you may not even get it at Abosoka. Somebody will have to go and look for it for you, and that one you know what it means. So it's not as if we are not conscious of what is happening. We try to do that to make sure we're all on the same page with the traveler and everybody. But the truth is that, contrary to the earlier perception that was in town that price has been reduced or we have to reduce and all that, it wasn't correct. Prices were not actually reduced. But we tried to also reduce ours. Because we did that because there has been this perception that whenever transport fares are increased, prices go up. So we did that to make sure that once we are able, we come down, it will force prices down. Rather, we did that and prices were still up. Prices were still up. So I don't know. And if you say we have to reduce again. You see, we are in a system. Look, since let me say about last month, we've seen some marginal increases in the fuel. Nobody's talking about it, too, but it's been moving. 2%, 3%, it's moving. So now diesel is around 12 cedis per liter. Formerly, it used to be around 10. So that's also something that people have just forgotten. But we see, and because of that, if you say at every reduction you're going to reduce the price, it will get to a point that you will not be even, you'll not be attractive enough, but people will not take you serious. Because of proper regulation and terminal issues, we have loading points stored all over the place. So anybody sits there and fix his own fare without control by anybody. So I don't think we have much. It's more of a challenge to us.
So there are several unions. At the moment, how many unions are you coordinating in the private sector?
You see, yes. Let me try to do it. You see, unions. Some of the unions under our control, we have about 26 unions. 26 unions? Yes, officially registered under the GRTC.
Across the regions?
Yes, across the regions.
Okay.
Some of them operate in more than one region, if somebody operates in 4 regions, some of them are nationally, all those are, but under our control, we have about 26 unions. And we have other unions who are also operating by themselves. They don't belong to the council, they don't belong to anybody, they are just there working. And they have drivers who are also floating drivers. These drivers who operate on their own, that we call floating drivers. Anytime prices are announced, they have a way of doing their own things. So if you say charge Accra and some 10 cities, they can decide to charge 12 or 15 cities. And because they don't load from a particular terminal, nobody is able to control them. That's where the challenge is. So we should also be able to try and do a proper, terminal management. Let's get spaces, maybe along the city. All the city, where we should have our terminals and our markets. And you see, you can't have market also without terminal. So the terminal should be somewhere and the market should be somewhere. At least that will come under certain form of control. The vehicle drives in there, get the passengers and go. So in there, there will be a form of control. But if it doesn't have anywhere to load, around 4 o'clock, you just get onto the street and it started loading. So if you start from Accra, you have people on the roadside to maybe Achimota, but they don't have any, designated the terminal that they will go and take their vehicles. So that's also a challenge. And until we do that, it will be very difficult to control the private operator because he starts from his house, opens his gate, and gets onto the road and started working.
I want to understand from you, is transport management expensive?
I don't get the question. Expensive?
When I talk about transport management, you mentioned terminal, building a terminal, and also there are instances where individuals have fleets of cars, managing them, ensuring that they come out profitably. Because I'm asking this based on the fact that we have had state enterprises that eventually collapsed that way in transport operation. And some of them also had to have instances where they are unprofitable. So all these are some, based on that narrative, is it a profitable venture? Especially when the state is involved.
If you look at the state and the private operator, it's two different ball games. Let me take a Metro Mass, for instance. Metro Mass Transit, if you have 100 buses, it's probably taking care of about, say, maybe 2 drivers, 2 conductors, the management, their spouses. So the overheads on that particular vehicle is huge. But if I see the private operator, if I have 1 Evan bus, maybe myself and my wife, and I don't pay anybody, so whatever I get is something that I manage within my space. But the government person will have to pay for their terminals, operators, buy all those logistics. Sometimes they also rely on new pass, but some of us we can manage with the second-hand pass, and that is why they are two different things. The private individual, our system is not that expensive, but except that our operations are dependent on the public, the local government. All these terminals we have are supposed to be owned by the local government. And until they are able to develop it in a way that would make kind of control easier, it's very difficult for anybody to control the private person. Because if I get there and go out without any form of control, and also because the terminal somehow has been ceded to, in quotes, some powerful people in the space, it's very difficult for others to come and have a feel of it, or maybe work from the terminal. So if I can't get access to the terminal, then I'll have to maybe find a way of surviving. So they go onto the road and start their own business. So if the government and the city wants this thing to sanitize the operational space, what we should be looking at is that let's get a designated terminals. If it is private management, get some manager there, register the vehicles as they come, look at their conditions and where they want to operate, and register them and give them opportunity to operate from the terminal. Because now the problem we are having is that getting to enter a terminal to operate there is difficult. I don't want to mention figures, but it's expensive. You get your vehicle, go there to Medina Terminal, go there to New Plan Station, you want to register. The kind of money that you pay is disincentive. Nobody wants to do that.
Is that the reason why we keep seeing most of the cars rather dropping passengers by the roadside, causing enormous traffics?
I think that's partly the reason. That's partly the reason, because they are not able to register and work in the terminal. And two, the terminals are taken over by market people. So the space that's supposed to take originally about the 500 vehicles has been reduced to about, say, 300 or 200 because of other activities that goes on in the terminal. So until we're able to get it known that, oh, this is a terminal and there's no business here. I was in Senegal last year and I saw some of the terminals, and the terminals is so sanitized that no hawking, nothing there. The bus comes in, picks the passenger and walks and goes away. And that's what we should be doing. The concept is what they developed, the Alolo concept. But unfortunately, if you look at our Alolo issue terminal here, we don't have good space, we don't have our roads are not designated and all that. Even the road that was designed for the Alolo operations were taken over by hawkers. So the matter is that we need to enforce some of these regulations, and that is the only way to we can be solving this problem.
One will wonder, what will an efficient transport system, well structured, economically have in terms of impact on Ghana as an economy, our GDP, and even our individual households? What would the impacts be?
Well, if you are able to sanitize the space, and we are able to get operations done within time, because transport is about timing. It's about timing. Once you time yourself, I have to get to this place in 15 minutes, and 15 minutes you are there. Economy, doing economic sense. But if you have to get there 15 minutes and you spend about 1 hour in traffic, this morning I had to come to this program. I live in Ofanko. I started around 5 a.m. before I could make the time. But if I know the traffic situation is good, the road is perfect, I can start in about 6:30. By the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I should be here. So the issue has to do with, let's build our systems well, let's structure the roads, let's make sure that we have segregated points that we can connect to anywhere we want to go. If you want to maybe connect to Teshi, you can go somewhere around 37, pick a car there and go. And let's also try to have, a busy bus stops. The buses should be on the move and pick the passengers along the bus stop. If I don't think it's for any, just ordinary that a bus stop was designed a half kilometer apart. But you don't expect that anybody will walk to the terminal to go and pick a bus there. And they should be at the bus stop and somebody picks you there. But in our case, in case we have these bus vehicles load from the terminal full, they move. So if you are standing out there, you can be there for hours. Unless you are lucky and somebody gets down there, you won't get a vehicle. So let's have a system. Let's time ourselves. Look, we stand here 15 minutes, move, pick the passengers along the road. And let the police also decongest the bus stops. The bus stop that was supposed to be for the operator, the bus was taken over by the hawker. The policeman is comfortable with the hawker standing there, hawking his wares. But if a driver gets there and wants to alight passengers just for a minute or two, they will come and arrest you. So until we're able to clear those people from the space, it will make difficult moving around the town, and it always affects our economic.
I'm speaking with Mr. Oheneba Yeboah. He is the General Secretary of the Ghana Private Union Coordinating Council. It says there are about 26 unions under the whole organization, excluding some independent unions who are operating on their own system. So, Mr. Yeboah, we've touched on key development in the sector. The one thing I want to understand from you is when it comes to policy, is it that we have too many policies in the sector that, but we lack the capacity to implement them? Because it appears Ghana is always leading in terms of book knowledge, but when we go down to getting the work done, we always fall short.
Yes, I think let me take you by a little on this some of the issues. You see, the transport operations in Ghana, I can't say has been neglected for far too long. If you go to the ministries, they have all the nice policies there, but the actual operation, like you said, the implementation has been lacking. If we have a good implementation policy, and somebody also cared about the transport operator, maybe we won't be seeing what we're seeing now. Most of the countries, go to South Africa, the Kenya area, most of the operations are done by the private people. But because the infrastructure is there, it's supposed to operation. So let's get things done and get it done properly. If we have these policies, all the fine policies in our books, and we're unable to implement it. There was this LI Act that was passed by Parliament, making road safety an authority. So road safety is now the regulator of the transport operators. But road safety is just on paper. There's no funding to make their work well. The whole of last year, I didn't even see road safety activity on our roads. Why? We can't always have the acts and refuse to let them work. So if you want the system to operate and operate well, I think we should go back to the table. Let's look at those who matter. Let's meet them, let's discuss, and let's start from somewhere. Because until we do that, the books will be there, the policies will be there, but the actual implementation will still be lacking, as it's lacking now.
All right. So thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Hene-Yeboah. He's the General Secretary of the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council. This is very insightful conversation